Just a quick heads up, this episode might contain a little colorful language.
We all have value, and we shouldn't confuse access to privilege with any sort of internal value or worth. You know, like some people are smarter than other people. So what? Some people have more money than other people. So what? You know, we're all good people. And to the extent that we're not good, it's that we've been damaged by life oftentimes.
I'm Leon Davis, and this is One Good Question. Thank you for joining me for another episode of One Good Question. Today, my guest is Matt Hongoltz-Hetling. He is an award-winning journalist, and he's preparing to publish his first book that will be available this September. We had a really good conversation about the value of people. It really aligns with some of my core philosophies about life. And in general, I just really enjoyed speaking with Matt today. Just a quick heads up, there are a few sections in the recording that the cell connection starts to get a little fuzzy. So don't worry, it's not your phone, it's not your speakers, it's just a cell connection. So let me go ahead and get you to Matt Hongoltz-Hetling answering his one good question. Hey, Matt, thank you for joining me today. How you doing today?
Very good, thanks.
All right, awesome, man. Well, thank you for joining me today. We're going to go ahead and roll right to it, if that's all right with you.
Let's do it.
All right, outstanding. So I noticed that on your Twitter bio that you have worked as a server, a cabbie, and a social worker. All of those expose you to the best and worst of humanity. As a restaurant industry veteran, I have great respect for those who choose to dedicate any portion of their life to serving others. Can you tell me any experiences or lessons learned from your time in service to the general public that inform and or influence the way that you write or select your subject matter?
That's an awesome question. Whoever writes your questions, you ought to give them a raise. And it's good to hear that you two have spent time in the public service industry. I don't know, most people probably have, but I think a lot of people look at those types of jobs as like the jobs that they don't want to be in. Let me answer this in a little bit of a roundabout way. When I was living in Chicago, I was doing work for a cigarette company, and my job was to collect people and get them to agree to be in focus groups to talk about, this cigarette versus that cigarette or whatever. And so they wanted, young, hip people, and I was young and hip at the time. This was like 20 years ago, 25 years ago.
Yeah, we were all young and hip at one time, right?
Yeah. Yeah, right. And we think it's going to last forever. But it does not. So while I was working in a nightclub trying to collect people, I saw three really, really drunk, blitzed out of their mind people trying to get into the club, and it was kind of close to closing time, and the doorman would not let them into the club. And they tried to intimidate the doorman into letting them in, and they pulled out their wallets, and it turned out that they were police officers. And like a truck full of uniformed police officers went by on the street outside, and there was like, really loud, like shouting of greetings, and, just sort of like, hey, like they had all come from the same party or something. And as one of them was fumbling with his wallet, very clumsily, because he was so blitzed out of his mind, a little something fell onto the ground, and he like picked it up and told the doorman, not to worry about that was like monopoly money. And, it was not making a lot of sense. And the doorman remained firm and would not give them admission. And eventually they backed down and went away. And it turned out that the thing that they had dropped on the ground was crack cocaine. And these were cops, right?
Yeah.
And so I think, the point of the story is that when you're in the service industry, I think people who have some sort of status or power, be that wealth, some other sort of privilege, being in a position of authority, like a police officer, they really show their ass to the service industry people who are around them, because they don't regard them as being, kind of like dangerous to their image or dangerous to their status. And so they let their guard down a little bit. And, like when I was a cabbie in rural Maine, I was taking wealthy people from a private airport to the ski slopes and to bars and that kind of stuff. And, in the springtime when it's warm there, it's probably not true near where you are, Leon, but in rural New England, those first several warm, wet nights of the year, millions and millions of frogs come out of the little pools and stuff, and they cross the road as they try to get to the next pool over. So at certain nights of the year, when you drive along, the roads are just full of frogs, and it's really cool. And a disappointing percentage or subset of these people that I was giving rides to wanted me to try to run down as many frogs as possible. And it's stupid, right? It's they're frogs, and most people eat animals, so we're not really on any moral high horse, but it's just like this little act of extra petty cruelty that you're gonna try to goad me, the cab driver, into killing animals just for what, And conversely, when I was working as a social worker with a kid who was on the spectrum in Maine from a paper mill family, he did not really have any status, right? Mm-hmm. And he was just like he was so kind-hearted and so sensitive to the needs of the people around him. One of my jobs was to teach him what they call ADLs, something like daily tasks or whatever, just the skills that we need to get through life. And one of them was to go to the grocery store and be able to, complete a shopping trip. And his big challenge in those grocery stores was that he liked the people around him so much that he was really disturbed at the thought of being in their space. So if someone's walking down the aisle of the grocery store, it really stressed him out because he didn't want to slow them down or impede them in any way. And I just thought even though this is kind of a dysfunctional expression of that care, it's such a good quality to have, and we pay lip service to the idea of things like being kind and being responsible, and that those are really the important things. That's what we learn in kindergarten. But when we grow up in this crazy world, we find that even though we pay lip service to those types of ideals, the real values that we celebrate are authority and money and power and those types of things. We're all bowing down to those gods in so many different ways. And so I was exposed to that lesson a lot over time. It was just kind of reinforced over and over. And, I was struck by a quote. It was a Mark Twain quote. I've never met someone so stupid that I couldn't learn something from them, right?
Yeah.
And I used to see that quote a lot. It was one of my favorite little sayings, because I would remind myself when I'm talking to somebody who's maybe not very well-spoken, who is down and out, that there are rich little veins of humanity to be mined there. And I said that to somebody once, and they said, that's not Mark Twain. That's Galileo said that. And I looked it up, and they were right, which kind of proves the point, right? Here's this guy that I thought I was telling something, and he's actually helping me. And so the way that informs my current profession of writing is that, I think a lot of people who write, they tend to come from, it's a little bit of a luxurious job to have, right?
Yeah.
Not too many people go from mill worker to writer. And I grew up in a blue collar family, but we were always did well in school. We always had aspirations and positive feedback that allowed me to pursue this kind of an occupation. And I think most people who get into this job, they want to write to really impress the people in the ivory towers. They want to write in a way that's going to make someone think oh God, that guy's so smart, and I really think that's the wrong approach overall. I think the best writers are the ones who can write in a way that can be appreciated by everybody. And that doesn't mean dumbing down the material, but it just means not trying to be so effing clever and to just appreciate a story for the value of the story. And the things that are good about the story are that it's an interesting story, not that you are going to, use big words and make it better. To use the example I just talked about, it's about that cop has crack cocaine falling out of his pocket and he's completely brazen about it, right? It's not that I'm like, have some amazing way to tell the story. It's just an inherently interesting thing with a life lesson there. And so I would say that that's probably the main thing that I've taken from my life in public service and from these sometimes unheralded jobs is that we all have value. We all have sensibility, and we shouldn't confuse access to privilege with any sort of internal value or worth. Like some people are smarter than other people. So what? Some people have more money than other people. So what? We're all good people. And to the extent that we're not good, it's that we've been damaged by life oftentimes. And, if you look at the statistics, we don't succeed or fail because we're hardworking or smart. We succeed or fail by some combination of luck and existing status and who our parents were and all that sort of thing. So I think we all have to really try to remember that in our daily lives and celebrate the people as a whole.
It's funny because that aligns a lot with I'm on a line of thought recently as far as how I want to design my life, and right now one of those things is the Japanese concept of omotenashi and the way they do, which is their hospitality concept.
Oh, what tell me about that. What's that?
It has to do with being able to provide what the guest needs before the guest needs it, but also taking your ego out of it, and you're doing it for the sake of serving.
Oh, wow.
And which is funny because I just stumbled across this, and Malcolm Gladwell actually, give him a shout out, but yeah. I just stumbled across it, and I was like, wow, that aligns with so much with the way I think about hospitality, like the way when I'm running a restaurant, the way I want the restaurant to run and things of that nature. And then I also, earlier, I've been every interaction I have with people, I try to make a quality interaction. No matter how big or how small, I try to make some kind of impact with that person. And so my kids always make fun of me because I'll be in a grocery line and somebody will engage me and I'll have a little, and they're like, "You're always talking to people, Dad." I'm like, no, it's about making that quality interaction. You never know what the quality of your interaction will do for that person moving forward and vice versa. So it's the same thing, just acknowledging that everybody you contact has value. And I think we're missing a lot of that today.
Yeah, that's such a perfect example of it, because when you think about it, if you break down an act of hospitality into its parts, they're physical things that you can describe, right? You bring them the drink and you put it in this kind of a container and you say these words, right?
Yeah.
But it sounds like that. What was the Japanese term that you used again?
Omotenashi.
Omotenashi. It's the same steps largely, I'm guessing, but it just comes from a place that makes everything completely different.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
It's, I am sure, born of small communities where people are actually trying to honor their guests and not make money off of them.
Yes.
And so here in America, we have this system that's evolved through the crucible of capitalism, right?
Yes.
Where that sensibility is really commodified. And, and we have great service in the United States, but that framing that you just gave it, I think, makes all the difference.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, that was great. I like that conversation. We should probably talk more.
I'm in.
All right, cool. So, you're writing a book, correct?
Yes. The book is actually written, and it's my first book. I'm super excited about it. It's called A Libertarian Walks Into a Bear. It's available for pre-order now, wherever books are sold. If you go to your local retailer website or what have you, you will see it. Perhaps you'll provide a link for it on your show notes, Leon.
I will.
It's a very fun and funny book, I think. It's about this. It's a nonfiction. It actually happened in a small town in rural New Hampshire. they started what they called the Freetown Project. And basically all the libertarians all across the nation decided that they were going to come to this town, take over the town government, and turn it into their own low tax, low regulation utopia. And soon after that, the town started having bear problems. And so the book is about how those two things are related.
Okay, that's funny.
Yeah, I hope you check it out.
Yeah, definitely. I'll definitely check that out. Yeah, looking forward to that one. So
it's available for pre-order now,
Yeah.
but it won't actually ship until September.
ship in September. Okay.
That's right. So you can order a digital version, you can order a hard copy. Either way, you'll get it then.
All right. Awesome. You gonna do an audio book, being that we're on audio right now?
Yeah, I actually haven't really talked specifically about that with the publisher. I think it's a matter of course that they make it available in audio, and
Okay.
I'm not sure who will provide the voice. I might have a face for radio, but I also have a voice for I don't know, pictures, silent movies. So we'll see what they have me do.
Okay. All right. That's cool. I do either or. Actually, I have quite a few like regular books, and then I have audio books also. I'm into both. It just depends on how much time I have to take in books and which route I go.
Yeah.
So yeah, cool. All right, outstanding. So you ready for the house question?
Yeah, hit me with the house question.
All right, man. So tell me a piece of advice that you've received in the past that you ignored. Now looking back, you wish you would have actually taken.
Yeah. This is such a fantastic question because it invites like self-reflection, right?
Yes.
And I think like the default answer a lot of people go to is no regrets. Like you ask someone in whatever position, that's almost always the answer they give. And this is great because it asks you to like go a little bit deeper. And I have like just a history full of ignored advice, right? Like, I was maybe a little bit of or I think most of us consider ourselves to be outcasts in high school, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I was definitely, had that idea. And for me, that manifested itself in kind of like a real independence and resistance to advice. I can learn things much more easily than I can be taught things. And I think a lot of people have that to some degree.
Yes.
And so, like when I was younger, I was told many times in many different ways, work hard at school, listen to your teachers, get a good job, take care of your physical health, change your underpants daily. And I mean, come on, who has the time, right?
Especially in high school. Come on, you had so much stuff to do.
Right. So on balance, I like to ignore advice. Probably the piece that I ignored the most, or that I look back and say, a lot of those decisions are like kind of like avoiding traditional jobs and that kind of stuff. And like, they got me where I am today. So I don't necessarily regret those, even though on balance, they may have led to a better path for me. But the one thing that was like undiluted upside and almost no downside was I was soon after I was born, my eardrum fell down.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm actually very hard of hearing in my right ear. And it doesn't really impact me too much. I never had it fixed when I was a kid because I was growing. And so if they put it in artificial skin graft or whatever, it would have fallen down. And when I went to college, I had decent health care for the first time. It was like there was a hospital associated with the school. It was University of Illinois in Chicago.
Okay.
I could have very easily had my ear fixed then. And my older brother was like, you're so stupid if you don't do that. I was like, and I just didn't do it. And it would have been so easy for me to do that. That was the right time in my life for me to do that. But because the loss of hearing wasn't really impacting my life in any appreciable way, I just didn't care, right?
Yeah.
It seemed like a hassle. And now, looking back 20, 25 years later, I see my own mortality coming, right? Like, I don't necessarily have a big problem with hearing right now, but I see the trend, right? In no year am I better off physically than I was the previous year?
Yes.
Our bodies wear down, our bodies wear out, and I see the handwriting on the wall. And so I just look back and I think that was the opportunity. The universe was really lined up at that point to give me a gift. And I could not go the 2% to accept that gift. And now, I'll probably never do it. And so I guess it's a very specific answer. And maybe it doesn't have a lot of broad application to people. But, I suppose maybe the broader lesson is that when those opportunities are there, at least think about why you don't want to take advantage of it. And if you can't come up with a really good reason that amounts to more than just I don't feel like it, or I'm feeling oppositionally defiant to the advice you're giving me, just do the stupid thing. Pretend it was your idea. And then do it.
Nobody has to know that somebody else told you to do
it. That's right. And tell that person that you didn't do it.
Yeah. No, I didn't do it. Exactly. That's awesome. That's good, man. Well, thank you, man. Thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate your time. Thank you for taking your time out.
Leon, thank you so much for having me on your show. I am really excited and enthused about the energy that I feel coming out of your podcast. I think it's going to go very far. I think, I see the thoughtfulness of your approach, and I'm hoping that I think I might have said to you this in the pre-interview, but I'm looking forward to the day when my book has sold 1 million copies and you have 1 million downloads for every broadcast you put out, because people need to hear your approach.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that day too, man. I'm definitely looking forward to that. We'll have to, when that hits, we're going to have to get back together, do something. Oh, yeah. We'll do something on a larger scale than what we're doing now.
I'm in. All
right. Outstanding, man. Well, thank you very much. I'll let you get back to your day. And I definitely appreciate you for joining me on One Good Question.
All right. Looking forward to hearing it. Thank you.
Once again, that was Matt Hongoltz-Hetling. Be sure to check the show notes to pre-order his book. I will include a link to his website there. I just want to extend another great big thank you to Matt for his participation. I really appreciate it. I look forward to following his career going forward and reading his book. Thank you for listening to One Good Question. I'm Leon Davis. Theme music by DJ Seth Lowry. Find us on Spotify and Apple Music, or wherever you listen to podcasts. For a full list of where to find us, check out our Facebook page, or click the link in the show notes.